Out of eyes tryna put me on a t-shirt. Shorty want me so bad, do your knees hurt? Yeah, I'm counting paper crop in my Beamer.
Hey guys, you are watching GamerZ YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking about the best Nintendo Switch games you can still play in 2021, so let's start. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a platform adventure Metroidvania video game developed by Moon Studios and published by Xbox Game Studios for Microsoft Windows, Xbox One and Xbox Series X/S, and by iam8bit for Nintendo Switch. One announced during E3 2017. The title is a direct sequel to 2015's Ori and the Blind Forest, and was released on March 11, 2020 for Xbox One and Microsoft Windows. A Nintendo Switch version was released on September 17, 2020. Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S versions were released on November 10, 2022. The game is a 4K UHD, Xbox One X enhanced, and Xbox Play Anywhere title for. The game was developed by Moon Studios, a collective organization without a set location. The game's visuals were given an overhaul from the two-dimensional artwork in Blind Forest, to the three-dimensional models played in multilayered backgrounds in Will of the Wisps. The game maintains narrative continuity with Blind Forest and introduces new melee combat. Upon release, the game received universal acclaim for the Xbox One, Nintendo Switch and Xbox Series X versions, and favorable reviews for the Microsoft Windows version, with players and critics praising the game's visuals, combat, elements of exploration, environments, chase sequences, and soundtrack. However, criticism was aimed at technical issues such as frame rate issues and visual bugs, which were largely resolved with the Day 1 Patch 5. Final Fantasy VII Remake A is a 2020 action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix. It is the first in a planned series of games remaking the 1997 PlayStation game Final Fantasy VII. Set in the dystopian cyberpunk metropolis of Midgar, players control mercenary Cloud Strife. He joins Avalanche, an eco-terrorist group trying to stop the powerful megacorporation Shinra from using the planet's life essence as an energy source. The gameplay combines real-time action with strategic and role-playing elements. Remake was announced in 2015 following years of speculation. Several key staff members returned, including character designer Tetsuya Nomura as director Yoshinori Kitase as producer, scenario writer Kazushige Nojima as story and scenario writer, event planner Motomu Toriyama as a co-director, and composer Nobuo Uematsu, who returned to write the game's main theme. The staff redesigned the characters to balance realism and stylization. While the veteran Japanese Final Fantasy VII voice cast returned, the English voices were recast. The game was released for the PlayStation 4 on April 10, 2020. It received positive reviews, with praise for its graphics, gameplay, narrative, and music. Critics applauded how faithful the story and lore was to the original game from 1997 while expanding on it. The updated battle system was praised for its strategic elements and visual flourishes. However, reception was more mixed toward the game's linearity and the repetitive nature of its side quests. Final Fantasy VII Remake became one of the fastest-selling PlayStation 4 games, selling over 3.5 million copies within 3 days and 5 million by the end of the year. An enhanced version for the PlayStation 5 and PS5 exclusive paid expansion, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 is a skateboarding video game developed by Vicarious Visions and published by Activision, released on Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on September 4, 2020, and will also set to be released for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S on March 26, 2021, and for Nintendo Switch in 2021 too. It is a remaster of the first two games in the Tony Hawk series, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, 1999, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, 2000, which were originally developed by Neversoft. It is the first major game in the series since Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, 2015. This is noted to be Vicarious Vision's final work as a subsidiary of Activision before being merged into Blizzard Entertainment in January 2021-3. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 received generally favorable reviews from critics. The game has become the fastest-selling game in the franchise, selling 1 million copies within the first 2 weeks. Contents. Doom Eternal is a first-person shooter game developed by ID Software and published by Bethesda Softworks. The sequel to Doom, 2016, and the fifth main game in the Doom series, it was released on March 20, 2020, for Windows, PlayStation 4, Stadia and Xbox One, with a version for Nintendo Switch being released on December 8, 2020 and versions for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and Series S being planned. Set sometime after the events of the 2016 game, the story follows the Doom Slayer once again, on a mission to end Hell's consumption of Earth and foil the alien makers' plans to exterminate humanity. Along with the single-player campaign, a multiplayer mode titled Battle Mode was introduced. In this mode, players can either play as the Doom Slayer or as a demon, and fight until either the Doom Slayer defeats the demons, or vice versa. Another mode, titled Invasion, is currently in development. Players will be able to join other players' single-player campaigns and fight each other. On October 20, 2020, a standalone campaign DLC, titled The Ancient Gods, Part 1, was released, taking place after the events of the main campaign. Upon release, Doom Eternal received critical acclaim, with praise for its campaign, graphics, level design, soundtrack, and combat mechanics, though some disliked the increased focus on storytelling and its platforming sections. Doom Eternal received 5 nominations at the Game Awards for 2020, including Game of the Year and Best Action Game. Cyberpunk 2077 is a 2020 action role-playing video game developed and published by CD Projekt. The story takes place in Night City, an open world set in the cyberpunk universe. Players assume the first-person perspective of a customizable mercenary known as V, who can acquire skills in hacking and machinery with options for melee and ranged combat. The game was developed using the Unreal Engine 4 by a team of around 500 people, exceeding the number that worked on the studio's previous game The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, 2015. CD Projekt launched a new division in Wrocław, Poland, and partnered with Digital Scapes, Nvidia, QLOC, and Jolly Research to aid the production. Cyberpunk creator Mike Pondsmith was a consultant, and actor Keanu Reeves has a starring role. The original score was led by Marcin Przebilowicz, featuring the contributions of several licensed artists. After several years of heavy anticipation, CD Projekt released Cyberpunk 2077 for PlayStation 4, Stadia, Windows, and Xbox One on December 10, 2020, with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S versions planned to follow in 2021. It received praise for its narrative, setting, and graphics, although some of its gameplay elements received mixed responses, while its themes and representation of transgender characters received scrutiny. Cyberpunk 2077 was also widely criticized for bugs, particularly in the console versions which suffered from performance issues. Sony removed it from the PlayStation Store on December 17, 2020. CD Projekt became subject to investigations and class action lawsuits for their perceived attempts in downplaying the severity of the game's technical issues before release.